Okay, so this is specifically about Los Angeles. And what I'm saying is that we're probably more than likely going to end up locking down again. It's a strong chance of it. Honestly, I wish that we didn't have this virus here, that it never existed, and that we wouldn't have to go through all of this. I wish things were back to normal, where people could live their lives and go to work and go to school and be able to do all the things that they wanted to achieve, and that still could be possible, but somehow this thing is going on, and it's unfortunate, and I'm not in agreement with it. I don't get pleasure out of any of these things. I just wish it would go away. I wish they could come up with some kind of vaccine that would just get rid of all of it and end it right then and there. And I'm hoping that's what happens in the near future. But, when you hear stories about it could take years or it could take, some time, and you're wondering how much time is it going to take, it it makes you feel kind of frustrated. So you want it to end. You want it to just be like over, and you want things to just, you feel like you could just take like a switch or like a remote and click back to a year ago to where there was no pandemic, and you could resume your lives and try to get on with life as normal. So this article, it's out of Yahoo US, Los Angeles City coronavirus update. So the mayor, Eric Garcetti, warns of possible stay-at-home order. All options are on the table. And so even I know even they are probably exhausted with all of this. I'm sure they are, because it's like, what do you do? And you're doing all that you can do. So this is by a Tom Tap, a deadline. And so basically, the mayor and the governor, they're just trying to do their job, and they're trying to, warn of the precautions that need to take place to slow the spread. But not a lot of people are taking it um, in a manner that is for their own safety. They're taking it in a manner that is negative, or either they're not really paying attention to it and they don't believe it, or they don't want to consider that it could be infecting other people's lives in a bad way. So Los Angeles City Mayor Eric Garcetti began his Wednesday coronavirus press conference with some good news and then a warning. So, noting that LA is currently seeing the highest levels of hospitalization since the pandemic began, Garcetti warned. So he's warning that these next 2 weeks are absolutely crucial and critical to whether the schools open and whether the economy thrives. So he reminded the residents that all options remain on the table, that we will do whatever we will need to do. And so if it gets worse, Garcetti added that we'd likely return to the mandated stay-at-home orders in 1 to 2 weeks. And that is not that far off. And already when I was looking at the news of them reporting the cases that they have, it looks like the spikes are happening more and more and more, and it's gotten worse. And that doesn't sound so good. So there are still too many social gatherings, way too many pool parties, he said. Parents need your help. And the mayor, I guess he wants parents to talk to their young teenagers and young adults to, distance himself or try to find other creative ways to socialize, maybe on social media with their friends, to keep children away from their friends, I guess, for a temporary time frame until they can get things under control. And I know that sounds really sad because it doesn't seem like things are under control right now. It seems like it's out of control, but as a general guideline, Garcetti advised this, and so you should assume that everyone that you're around is possibly infected. So testing remains a critical too. And so before I go any further, I was hearing that they were straying with the testing and that they were even maybe running out of testing equipment. And then I heard the scariest news this morning. A doctor talking from a hospital, I believe it was in Florida and Texas, and then even here, the hospitals in Los Angeles are filling up, where they were saying basically the doctors were saying they are going to have to do like what Italy did, where they're going to, if they get too full and too strained, they're going to have to pick and choose who gets seen and who doesn't get seen. And yes, that means some people are going to be sick and they're going to die. So they're going to take whoever they think is the one that they can pick that they feel that, you know, should get an opportunity to live. So that's the draconian measures, and that's what we're starting to see them put in place, possibly if it gets to a point. That's going to be really sad, but it says we hear very, or well, actually, very wasn't the word they should have put. It should have been every. We hear every single day that there are not enough tests, said the mayor before announcing that the city and the council or the county had performed a record of 20,000 tests on Wednesday. But in a city of 4 million people, however, that's not enough. And so we need more testing help. And so sounds like there's a problem with that, and that might be a big issue with whether schools open as well. It's not only the fact that schools, if you look at it, and I'm adding this in there, that from what I've seen with my own two eyes is that it's a classroom, and sometimes it can have more than 25 children packed into a classroom. And I don't think there's any amount of plexiglass that's going to help to social distance people from that. The other thing is that if it's airborne, the schools, they would have to change the air vents and make sure that the air vents are specifically for that transmission of something like that, of the COVID, because they're using in this air conditioning in the classrooms, and it might be recycled air or air that's recirculating over and over and over. You could get sick from that. And then the staff, you have a lot of staff people that are working in the schools, and if it's indoor, schools are not outdoors, they're indoors. So if adults can't go to bars, they can't meet and gather and have these parties, and these are gatherings, restaurants. You're pretty much putting kids in schools where they're forced to gather, and it's going to be more than 20 people in a room. The rooms are not that big. Some rooms might be spread out, but even with that, you're still saying that they're going to be in a room, there's going to be a group of people, and they're going to be breathing in and out and exhaling in and out the air that's in that one room, and you don't know who's sick. Somebody at home could be sick, they could be bringing it to the school, or they could get it from the school and bring it home to somebody and make them sick. And so those are ways that this disease could also jump from student to student to staff, and Donald Trump's administration was saying that they were going to withhold funding from schools, and that was in the event that they refused to send kids back. But here, what you see here, it says that every single day that there are not enough tests, the mayor is announcing that the city and the county had performed a record of 20,000 tests on Wednesday, but in the city of 4 million people, that's not enough. So they need more testing help. And so, without a major boost in testing, continued the mayor, there's no way that they can safely reopen the economy or safely reopen schools. And so I agree. I honestly agree with this mayor. Um, what he's saying is it's not safe, and even not just agreeing with him on what he's saying, I feel it's not safe. And this is out of my own opinion because I've seen how those classrooms look, and there's no social distancing. There's no amount of social distancing you can do with 20 to 30 to 40 kids. And then they're kids. You really expect kids to wear masks all day long? I just really don't think that our cities, our states were prepared for this disaster. And had they had have prepared a little sooner, maybe you wouldn't have had as much loss of life. To the other things that I think were bad is not knowing enough information about the disease and just learning about it, and people were trying to, see where it was coming from, how it operates, how it passes from person to person. And I kind of feel there's a couple of things going on. Learning the new developments about the virus is cause for concern because Vegas opened up and they have large rooms, but they have lots of people, and they're breathing that air that's pumped in. And I'm sure, I don't know all the details about how that air operates, but I'm sure that it might be recirculated air. It's cool air, but it recirculates. You've got all these people from all over the place breathing in and breathing out, and inhale, exhale, whatever. And so that's, cause for concern. And not everybody's going to social distance. Not everybody's going to wear a mask. And we've seen these stories. And so I think it's just a recipe for disaster to open up schools. You're sacrificing the kids' lives and their parents and their family for this economy that so far it's already has, a lot of problems. You've seen what have happened with some of the other situations in churches where people were refusing to listen and they gathered, and then you had a bunch of people that contracted this disease. And so what you're saying is you're forcing parents to send their kids to schools, and they could possibly end up getting infected by a virus. So for those concerned that the city and the county are only doing 20,000 tests a day, don't be that scared by those numbers. So Eric Garcetti said this, and I'll tell you why. We saw 2 weeks ago that we had a capacity, but no demand. So now Garcetti says that with increased demand, I'm confident that within the next week, we'll get back to whatever path we need to be on. And so he tries to say things to be positive, but I'm looking at it from a more, he's looking at it from an optimism way of looking at it, and I'm looking at it from the other side of it. And then from what I'm seeing happening now, based on the numbers of people and the way people's behaviors are here. I live here in Los Angeles. I see what people do. And so not everybody social distance, not everybody wears masks, not everybody's following protocols of safety. And so I believe we might end up reversing course because of the behaviors of some people, and then also because we did one thing that wasn't good. Is there was a lot of public pressure and protest to reopen things too soon, and I believe things opened up too fast. And that was another thing. That rally that they had in Tulsa with the, you know The Trump campaign was also no mask, no social distancing. That was pretty high risk. And so there's a number of things going on that I believe are contributing to the spikes that we're seeing. So here it says that there is an even larger crisis that is looming. According to the mayor, we're going to see across the nation a testing emergency. So Garcetti, in response to a question from the deadline, he predicted a national squeeze on lab personnel, testing materials, and contract tracing. So he called on Congress to approve another round of economic support for Americans. So we need national leadership. So this isn't a dog eat dog process, said Garcetti. So if states are pitted against each other, again, as they were in the scramble for the PP, the Paycheck Protection, the PPE, then said Garcetti, it becomes a zero-sum equation. If Florida does well, California suffers, and so on. And so earlier in the day, LA County Department of Public Health on Tuesday confirmed 4,015 new cases of COVID-19, the region's highest number of cases reported since the pandemic began. The high number of cases is due in part to a backlog of about 2,000 test results received from one lab that just submitted lab results from July the 2nd to the 5th today. So these are new results that have come in that have showed that confirmed 4,015 new cases of COVID-19. Who have those people been around? Whose house have they been over? What parties have they been to? What stores have they been to or frequenting? Where do they live? Who are they next to? Are they in a building where they share elevators? These are all things that come into play here. So testing results are available for more than 1.2 million individuals, with 9% of those people that test positive. So the daily positive rate of all tests, a composite of 7-day rolling average, has risen to 11.6% on Monday. That 7-day average was pegged at 10%. So a back of an envelope calculation shows LA's 1-day test positively, the rates is 16%. So also on Wednesday, California Hospital Association President CEO Carmela Coelho offered a grim update of the medical community and from the medical community, letting people know that we're preparing to surge. So basically, they know that already. They're forewarning that they're going to get higher numbers of people that are going to try to check into hospitals, and unfortunately, if it fills to capacity, they're going to have to turn folks away. So, and with good reason, she says. So, California Governor Gavin Newsom then announced a mind-boggling new number, and so that new number of coronavirus cases in the state over the previous 24 hours, California saw more than 11,694 new cases, which includes a backlog of cases as well from LA County. And so this is really sad. So these are people who have tested positive and they're just now getting the results of this. So testing backlogs have spiked. And so the state's daily new case numbers before the Wednesday number so far exceeds the state's previous all-time high of 7,149 reported June 24th, and that it cannot be ignored. And so I was looking at, it says we were at 2 million and now we're at 3 million of cases of people who are sick with this. So it just seems like there's no end in sight. It's like a nightmare that you want to shut off and it doesn't go away. It's like we're living in the twilight zone, a real life twilight zone that won't go away, and you want it to go away. You want the story to finally end so you can be like, okay, let's go back to normal, resume our lives as normal. But unfortunately, it isn't that simple. So I'm thinking that we probably will more than likely end up going back into a shutdown mode, because just yesterday I was at a store and I was about to go into the store. And most of the stores, they have the temperature checks. Some of them do, some of them don't. Or they just tell you the social distance, and they offer like hand sanitizer, and it's sort of like you're responsible when you go in and do what you got to do. And so basically, they opened the door, they were going to let me in, and they closed the door like they were afraid. And so something must have been going on. And right then and there, I was like, I'm not going in there because something bad is happening. And so I don't know if maybe somebody was getting sick or something like that. And so, they closed the door, and I guess they were getting worried because the numbers are rising. And then to people who are sick, sometimes they don't show symptoms maybe in the beginning, but maybe later they show symptoms. You have the ones that are asymptomatic, and then people who maybe in the beginning they don't show sickness that it's in them, but then all of a sudden they collapse. I have been seeing a lot of ambulance, a lot of like EMTs driving around the city. And so I know those are response calls to people who maybe have gotten sick with this virus. And so it's happened a lot more often lately. And so fire trucks as well. So I've been seeing that because it's been happening, I say, for the last 3 months. I've been seeing an uptick in that. It seems like how would I say, in a week's time that I've heard or seen ambulance, probably like maybe four or five times, or five at the most. There's at least 1 to 2 ambulance sirens that I hear a week. And so that's what usually goes on, or we're having to pull to the side. If you're just driving about, you see them more often than what it used to be. And so I know it's related to this disease. And so that's how I know too that it is really spreading. So I don't know why some people can't see that, and they're not as intuitive about that, because just before March, there wasn't this many ambulance and sirens that you would hear. You would rarely hear them as that often, but now you hear them a lot, you know, especially in LA neighborhoods. So anyway, with that being said, I just think people need to prepare for what may come. I personally don't think it's a good idea to put the kids in school, not with all of this going on. Two, there's also the rise in violence. People are more on edge. They're more uptight because of maybe their financial situation or losing a job. There's more, people that are depressed, and then people are on survival mode. They're worried because of the uncertainty about what's going on. What's the future going to look like with all of this, and then their safety. Some people are afraid. They think they're going to die, and so they're scared. So there's a lot of things going on. Then there's racial tensions. There's financial worries. There's people worried about losing their job that they do have if they're working on the front line. That might be their only income. There's a whole lot of a laundry list of things that are going on, and just based on this virus alone. So I just hope that something happens where this could all come to an end in a more positive way. It's just unfortunate that this is happening. I never imagined that we would be in this situation. I never imagined this, not in that many years. So I'm just hoping that somebody comes up with a vaccine, and they instantly say, okay, we found something that we think can really slow this thing down, and we'll start with maybe a few volunteers. We'll see where it goes, and then as it improves, then we'll start putting it out there. It seems really scary. And then you have a lot of people that are they're pretty much persuading people not to take the vaccine because they're afraid the vaccines are going to have something in it that's going to make certain people sick. so that it can kill you. And I even heard someone saying that they were starting to prepare death certificates for people, even though they're not yet dead. And so that's, to hear things like that is just so scary. And so that's what brings about more fear. Also, promoting racial strife. A lot of that has been going on, where people are, causing people to react in ways that maybe, if things were normal, you wouldn't see as much of this. I kind of feel like they're feeling emboldened because they're getting a message from someone that is telling them it's okay to be, a person that stereotypes, or that person that hurts people because of their skin color. And those are the messages that maybe they're hearing, and they're feeling emboldened to do these acts that we're seeing. And so I feel like whenever there's a crisis, uh, you know I was here when they had the Northridge earthquake. And believe it or not, before I end this video, I'll tell you, when the Northridge earthquake happened, it was so scary. It was so scary. I could feel it. We were still in LA, but in downtown, you could feel the shaking. And right away, my survival mode kicked in. I was like, oh my God, it's gonna get really bad. That was really heavy shaking. So you're trying to do everything to protect yourself, but then more than 5 minutes later, you could hear glass breaking, and people were trying to break into stores to steal TVs and to steal things. I'm thinking, wait a minute, it's an earthquake. Stealing a TV would be nothing in my mindset to do. I mean, that's crazy that, but believe it or not, and the reason why I'm saying that is because, however, you'll see some people that are trying to help people get to safety. There are some people that are worried about their safety, and they're trying to do things to prepare. And then you'll see people who, they're opportunists, and they take the opportunity to break into people's houses, or to break into a store and get something that they've been looking at it, and they figure, all of the law and enforcement and all the other places are already congested with calls about, the earthquake. So then their attention won't be really focused on trying to catch people who are, trying to find opportunities to break into places and businesses. And so, sure enough, that's what was going on in some places. It wasn't as big as what has happened, with some of the things that have happened now. And it wasn't like the type of thing like a protest, or people were enraged about police brutality. It was more just people trying to find opportunities to take advantage of a situation. And that's what I'm fearing, that as this disease begins to grow and spike, that people, like you see the online hackers, people trying to hack into people's things, or they're trying to steal in those ways, or they're trying to, run scams, people saying they've got the cure for the virus, and they're trying to get you to send them money, and it isn't the cure. It's a bottle of water in a little jar. So there's all kind of stuff that people will do when there's a crisis. So you guys be safe, not only because of the virus, but you have to be safe of what your surroundings and what kind of people are out there, because they take advantage of people's weakness or vulnerabilities. And that I can recall, that was a really scary moment. And so, having said that, I'm gonna let this video go. I just hope that people stay safe, and that, there's less killing, and that there's something that comes up to resolve this situation quickly, rather than later, because I don't see that it's going to get any better, you know, right away. I think it's going to be kind of crazy for a little while. It's my way of saying it. It's going to be kind of rough for a little while. And then later down the road, there may be like a little silver lining, I guess. But until then, I'm going to let this video go. Like, comment, subscribe, and thanks for listening, and be safe out there. And let's hope that, you know, there will be less killing and more people that are trying to work together to try to help people, and instead of be oppositional and hurting people. Thanks for listening.